May I please report? Hey, go ahead. Your Honors, opposing counsel, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Sydney took a gun. Sydney took aim. And Sydney could have just as easily taken a life. Now, it's August 18th, 2010. Sydney Park and Jesse Duran are in the home alone. They decided to play a game. In this case, their game of chance is roulette. Sydney first picks up the gun. Sydney first takes aim at Jesse. Sydney first pulls the trigger. But before that, Sydney had gone away, somewhere to where Jesse did not know. It's only after Sydney comes back that Sydney says, well, now it's your turn. She slides the gun over to Jesse Duran. So Jesse Duran does the same thing. A game of chance. Something that the Parks have been playing even before their parents, even before their children, got their hands on a gun. Today we heard testimony from Andy Park. You heard that she took the precautions to buy a very reputably safe gun, buy a very reputably safe box to keep the gun in. But what we also heard from Andy Park was that Andy Park was aware that Sydney wanted to know where the gun was. Sydney wanted to know where the combination was. Sydney knew that it was in the cabinet folder. And yet, Andy Park, well, she had a chance to move the gun. She had a chance to move the safe. She had a chance to move the combination. Andy Park did not take that chance, and as a result, we, the defense, are alleging that the actions or the inactions of Andy Park are what led up to the shooting of August 18th, 2010. Because without access to the gun, there could not be an accident with that gun. Opposing counsel came before you and mentioned a lot of talk about forensic evidence. Well, they had a burden to prove to you, that it was more likely than not that Jesse Duran had the intention to shoot Sydney. Well, what forensic evidence was presented before us today that indicated that in Jesse's mind, it was foreseeable that Sydney was going to die, when Jesse was doing the exact same thing that Sydney was? We heard nothing to prove that. We also heard some talk about fingerprints and gunshot residue. Well, we also heard from Sebastian that it's not impossible to get gunshot residue from other sources other than a gun. It was also very possible that Jesse Duran was in contact with one of the police officers while in the room before Sebastian was able to arrive on the scene. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, opposing counsel had to prove that Jesse Duran acted in a case of willful misconduct, acted with intention to kill Sydney. We have heard no evidence to even suggest that Jesse Duran had the intention to kill her friend. Because Jesse Duran was playing a game, the same game that Sydney Park was playing. It was a game of chance. It was a game in where nobody could win, and that a game that Sydney Park could just as easily have been in the same seat, in the same position as Jesse Duran. Andy Park could also be in the same seat, in the same position as Hayden Durant. Because it was all a game of chance. And Andy Park had been taking chances before their kids got their hand on a gun. Thank you.